2 days from primary election day, and Michigan's Secretary of State warns the votes that have already been cast could mean lengthy delays announcing the winners. That and President Trump wonders aloud whether the pandemic and its attendant complications should delay the election in November. Today is Sunday, August 2nd, 2020, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, and welcome to Flashpoint. You know, we keep saying that so many things are the strangest or most surreal in memory, like opening day at Comerica Park this past week. Very strange indeed. And we're going to say the same thing about Tuesday, which is primary election day in Michigan. Now, the pandemic has already torpedoed typical campaign strategies. We're about to see what it's doing to the electorate. We already know that a massive 2 million voters requested absentee ballots in Michigan, and more than 1 million of them had already been turned in as of Friday, the last count I saw. But here's the thing. And you already know this if you're a loyal member of the Flashpoint family, those ballots cannot be opened until Tuesday morning. That means a traffic jam is built into the system, even if there isn't one at the polling places. Now, last week, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson applied a little expectation management by telling us we should not expect to know the winners as we head to bed Tuesday night. In fact, we may not know them as we head to bed Wednesday night. President Trump has long made it clear he is no fan of mailing in your ballot. And last week, he floated a trial balloon on Twitter, wondering if the November election should be delayed until the coronavirus battle allows for more in-person voting. Now, even among Republicans, that idea went over like burlap bed sheets, but it's part of a broader question over whether we're ready for a pandemic election. And Secretary of State Benson is going to be here to talk about readiness for Tuesday in a moment. We'll also let our roundtable weigh in, too, as we set the stage for next week in politics, which will include the announcement of Joe Biden's running mate. All coming up today on Flashpoint. Well, we have checked in several times with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson over the absentee ballot change in Michigan, now that anyone can request an absentee ballot for any reason, all, of course, now intensified by the pandemic. And now, 2 days from the primary, she's back with us to talk about what we expect not only on Tuesday, but what we're learning now as we march toward November. Great to have you back on Flashpoint, Secretary Benson. Let me start. You now have over 1 million of these ballots have been turned in. You had requests for about 2 million of them. Can you put into context how much bigger you think this will be when it comes to absentee ballot vote and counting for you than we've ever seen before in the state?
Yeah, I mean, we're on track to double, if not triple, the record we've already had for absentee ballots voted in one single election. 2 million people have requested to vote by mail in Tuesday's primary. That is nearly twice the amount that has ever been requested before. 1.15 million was the amount from the November 2016 presidential election. That was our previous record. So we're talking about a system that's going to be processing and handling twice as many ballots sent through the mail than ever before for a primary. So we're on track to, in my view, triple that. We're preparing for, I should say, close to 3 million people voting by mail this November and putting the infrastructure and parameters in place to make sure that we can receive all those ballots and process them effectively.
Now, the last time you were on the program, you talked about some of the problems that your mail-out has sort of revealed. Names that are duplicated, addresses that are old, people who are no longer alive. How much of that has been now, I guess I want to say, fixed, or is that still going to be a problem going forward?
Well, what this mailing helped us do back in May are two things. One, give everyone an efficient way to request to vote by mail if they chose to do so. But through bounce backs and other ways in which we've heard back from people to say, hey, this person has moved or has passed away, it's enabled us to do a blanket mailing and catch a lot of the ineligible or individuals who've moved or are no longer voting in Michigan and begin the process of removing them from our voter file. So it's been very helpful in that regard. And that's why if anyone does still receive or did receive something that wasn't addressed to them, just hit return to send or send it back to us so we can process that appropriately to someone who's moved or is no longer eligible.
Now, you this past week tried to adjust our or set our expectations on what is going to happen here on Tuesday. We are not going to go to bed knowing who the winners are in many of these races. How daunting does this look to you, and how long do you think it's going to take?
Well, we're estimating it'll take a few more days because remember, if you've got twice as many ballots voted through the mail than ever before, it's going to take twice as much time to process them and count them. And yet we still have not been given the go-ahead from the legislature to begin processing those ballots any earlier than 7 a.m. on Election Day. So we've got really the same time that we've always had, but twice as many ballots. And in November, it may be 3 times as many. We hope the legislature acts by then, but until then, we did provide with our clerks with more high-speed ballot tabulators, envelope openers, and more people to help increase their capacity. But it's still just going to take more time.
You've been on Flashpoint a couple of times, sort of begging the legislature to create a better system for you. Can you see any legitimacy in their argument that this really does need to begin on Election Day? That's what Election Day is for, and you really shouldn't start until the polls have opened.
I agree that tabulation, actually counting the ballots, should not happen until Election Day, and there's lots of reasons for that. But preparing the ballots to be counted can happen before Election Day. It does happen in 18 states, including Florida, which the governor just gave the Secretary of State even more time this past week to begin processing ballots sent through the mail prior to Election Day. So it's nothing that's a sort of novel idea. It's actually put in place to ensure and protect the security of the system so that when the counting begins, clerks can do that efficiently and securely and with bright eyes and focus, as opposed to after a long election day or something like that.
Well, let's get now to the security issue. As you know, the president remains not a big fan of mail-in voting. He said this week that it's become obvious to him, and he says to others, that it is rife with fraud. And as he put it, that's common sense. Everyone knows it. Smart people know it. Stupid people may not know it. I'm going to assume he was talking about you. He has pointed you out in particular. He singled you out before.
Well, first of all, I look to the voters of Michigan where people on both sides of the aisle are clearly embracing and voting by mail, and that's who I work for. So that's my focus, and making sure that their process is secure and safe and they have confidence in it. And that's why the signature verification process, which we've talked about before, and people can read about on our website, michigan.gov/election security, to see all the ways in which we're protecting against fraud. That process has been in place for years, for decades in other states. It works well. When there is fraud, we catch it. And we react appropriately. But more importantly, my focus is also ensuring that we give citizens the system of elections they want. And citizens voted this system, the vote by mail option, in 2018. And my job is simply to execute their will safely and securely. And that's what we've done.
Do you want to react to the president and his suggestion? Has been roundly criticized, but his thought that and he said he didn't want to move the election, but that we might have to out of matters of safety over COVID.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, myself and my colleagues, secretaries of state all across the country swiftly reacted to that and said, as the state's chief election officers in our respective states, we've got this, we're ready. Our elections will be secure, safe, and on time across the country. So no need to talk about whether or not we need to delay. What we do need to talk about is federal funding that would all welcome into our states to help us better prepare and more efficiently plan for all of the changes that we have to adjust and adapt for, preparing for November. But as, again, the chief election officer for the state of Michigan, I'm proud to say we're ready for Tuesday, we're ready for November, and our elections will remain secure, safe, accessible, and on time.
Last question then regarding that safety. Voters have the choice of whether or not they want to vote in person or if they want to vote absentee. Your poll workers don't have that choice. They can't work Election Day absentee. Are you concerned about their safety? They have to be there all day.
Well, a few months ago, we launched a statewide recruitment effort, and through that, we've recruited 5,000, and we've recruited and trained 5,000 poll workers who can be deployed across the state so that people who don't want to work on Election Day don't have to, and will bring in and backfill those vacancies. We're also providing PPE, masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, social distancing guidelines for every single precinct and jurisdiction in the state. So we're doing everything we can to ensure that our in-person voting option is safe and secure as well, and that we're protecting not just our voters, but our election workers.
Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, I know we'll be talking to you as we move through this week, not only Election Day, but in the aftermath as well. Thanks very much for the time on Flashpoint.
Absolutely, Devin. Talk to you soon.
You bet. We'll take a quick break. We'll bring the roundtable in and let them weigh in on this and a number of other matters next on Flashpoint on Local 4.